What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name's Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on the Touchdowns to Home Runs show. Hope that your day is going absolutely fantastic. Today, we're going to be looking ahead again at the NBA draft, taking a look at the Toronto Raptors and some potential draft options that they might have. Now, at the time of me filming this video, the Raptors have a record of 27-41, and actually just last night with Indiana's win, the Raptors were officially eliminated from the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. But, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad situation from the Raptors. You're in a bit of a retooling phase. You got a very, very good young core, and now you're going into the lottery with already a very solid pick and potential to move up and get a really, really key player for the future. So as I've sort of said before, the Raptors are mainly targeting a center. You look at the Raptors core and Anunoby, Siakam, Flynn, VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., a lot of guards and even small forwards, but really lacking some of those core big men. So I think you're going into sort of the draft, you're going into free agency, really looking for that centerpiece. But as I've sort of mentioned before, there's a lack of centers in this draft. So there might come a time where the Raptors just have to draft the best player available. But let's get right into it. So the first sort of potential player that I have is if the Raptors move up in the draft lottery. We're talking probably inside the top 5 in order to get a guy like Jonathan Kuminga. 6'8", 205-pound small forward and power forward, decided to skip college, go straight to the G League, but was one of the top recruits a couple of years ago. 2020, 2021 put up some really, really good numbers for that G League Ignite team. 15.8 points per game, 7.2 boards, 2.7 assists. I think he had a steal and just under a block as well. So this is a guy who really fills up the stat sheet. And again, not necessarily that center size, but he is one of the bigger guys that would probably be in the Raptors range at some point in the draft. I mean, you're looking at a small forward, power forward, so staying away from those guards, I think what the Raptors need to do. From the research that I've done and from what I've seen, he's actually compared to a guy like Pascal Siakam, which isn't bad by any means. Kuminga has very, very good length. He's got a very solid wingspan, a good scoring ability, very good finisher at the rim. Again, a lot of experience against some guys who are better than at the college level, right? He's sort of already at that professional level at the G League. Solid ball handler, solid playmaker as well. Actually, a very decent passer for his size who can pass out of drives, which is something that I've been very impressed with Kuminga, and pretty efficient. His range can extend out to the perimeter as well. He's put up some pretty good three-point shooting numbers. So you're looking at sort of just an all-around guy, again, not necessarily that center size that the Raptors could potentially be looking at, like in a guy that we'll be looking at next, actually. But he does give you more size than a lot of the guys inside the top 10, 6'8", not bad by any means. I think you're already getting a very, very good, experienced player who's very talented right now, but I think he's got just a ceiling that is sky high. Let's move on, though. Kai Jones. I've spoken about this guy in a few videos in the past, and I actually watched Texas a bunch last year, just because Texas was such an interesting team in the way that their height was sort of distributed over the roster. But Kai Jones specifically, 6'11", 220-pound center, just finished his sophomore year at Texas. One of only actually a few centers in the first round of this draft, and if the Raptors stay right around that 8 to sort of 10 range, even like 7 to 10 where I think the Raptors will finish at, really the only center, true center in their range. So definitely a guy that the Raptors got to be looking at. 2020, 2021 for Texas, only 8.8 points, 4.8 boards, and 0.9 blocks, but that was already a big statistical jump from his freshman year. And people made this mistake sort of last year with the Bulls draft pick. Don't let the stats in college fool you. You got to be sort of looking at what Kai Jones could bring in the future for the Raptors. He's an explosive athlete. I think one of the most explosive athletes that I saw last year. Plays with a very, very high motor. He's a good ball handler who can beat bigger defenders off the dribble. Extremely, extremely athletic as well. Can defend sort of 1 through 5. Can play alongside centers as well. Because of this, teams can play bigger lineups. I don't know if that's necessarily something that the Raptors would do, but that is always on the table. Hits jump shots, really good mid-range shooter, can shoot from the perimeter as well, just under 40% last year from 3. And I think overall he's just one of the most intriguing prospects in the draft. Just with that athleticism, he's already a very good player, but gives you a lot of versatility, and I think he's got a sky-high ceiling as well. Also, you look at what the Raptors need positionally, right? Being the only center in the draft, or at this sort of range, it makes a lot of sense for the Raptors, especially if they don't end up moving in up in the draft lottery. So this is definitely a guy who's a proven winner, proven really, really solid player at the collegiate level, played alongside Jericho Sims last year. So, I mean, this is exactly what you want in the center. Not exactly 7 foot. That's the only thing that I would say is sort of the weakness here. But yeah, Masai Ujiri and the Raptors definitely going to be taking a look at this player. The third guy that we're going to be talking about in this video, Franz Wagner. Now, you could say it's Michigan bias, or you could say it's the opposite, just because I've seen Franz Wagner play so much over the course of the past couple of years. It was a little up in the air if Wagner was going to declare for the draft, but being projected inside the top 15, I mean, there's no reason why he wouldn't declare for the draft. And Franz Wagner, from everything that I've seen over the course of the past couple of years, I mean, it's crazy. The progression that this kid has made and the ability that Franz Wagner has to play on both sides of the basketball. He's one of the best two-way players in terms of offense and defense that I've seen at his age at the collegiate level. He's played 2 years for the Michigan Wolverines, but what a lot of people don't realize is he came from overseas in Germany. So when he started his freshman year, he was a lot younger than the average freshman. Like Franz Wagner this year was younger than Hunter Dickinson, our star freshman center. So he's got the age factor more so than a lot of second-year prospects coming out of college. But Franz Wagner, 6'9", 220 pounds, small forward and power forward. You might have heard the Wagner name, even if you didn't watch college basketball, because his brother Mo Wagner currently playing in the NBA as well. 2020, 2021, 12.5 points, 6.5 boards, 3 assists. But I think, again, like, these are very good stats at the collegiate level, but I think, what a lot of people don't realize if you haven't really watched Franz Wagner is how good this kid really is. And again, as I was sort of saying before, it starts with that defense. He's a great perimeter defender, but he does such a good job at being able to defend without fouling. His length and his versatility, athleticism, again, he can defend a ton of positions as well with that size at 6'9". So you're not exactly getting a center, but you're getting a guy who's only 2 inches smaller than Kai Jones, right? So if the Raptors don't end up getting super, super high in the draft, this is a guy right around that 10, 11, 12 potential spot that the Raptors could be looking to take a guy like Franz Wagner. As I was saying, extremely athletic. He's a very, very good scorer, especially inside. Great sort of mid-range guy. Can get to the free throw line. Plays with a lot of energy. He's very, very active on both sides of the ball. Not only a good defender, but he's sort of that hustle, gritty guy. Gives you the energy all the time. Gets to the free throw line. All his percentages, shooting-wise, are very efficient. He's got very good percentages inside from the perimeter as well. He is a bit streaky, but we've already seen him take big steps up. He's a great wing player. I would say a little bit of a project, but the project word mostly means that you're not expecting a lot from his sort of rookie year. That's not what I see with Franz Wagner. I'm seeing a guy who's going to give you production in year one, but also a guy, who a couple years down the line could really, really develop into an NBA superstar. And that's not just Michigan bias. This is something that I truly, truly do believe. This kid is special. And I think, you could be getting him potentially later on in the lottery, which is, really, really interesting. But anyways, guys, if you did make it to this point in the video, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me know, who do you guys want to see the Raptors take, depending on, where they end up finishing after the draft lottery. But if you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for more content just like this. The NBA draft is still a couple of months away, but we're going to have a ton of coverage the closer and closer that we do get to the NBA draft, so make sure to stick around. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.